Greetings and welcome to this episode of Go XDGO, the official podcast of XDGO. XDGO is an action-oriented, experience design leadership consultancy that focuses on helping organizations, teams, and individuals understand, embrace, and sustain the practice of experience design. I'm Matthew Doty, founder and principal consultant of XDGO. Today's episode continues a series of episodes focused on design leadership. In this series, I interview both leaders of design capabilities as well as leaders who value good design. In this episode, I spend some time with Alan Arlt. Alan is an entrepreneur, executive, and business strategist who specializes in starting and growing recreational sports businesses. Alan is the founder of Ultimate Hoops, a premier recreational basketball league and skills training business that was acquired by Lifetime Fitness in 2008 and grew to become the largest network of recreational basketball leagues in America. Before launching Ultimate Hoops, Alan worked for several years as a marketing executive at Discovery Communications and Turner Broadcasting in New York City. For those of you listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to check out this podcast on our YouTube channel so you can see our smiling faces as we discuss, learn, and laugh together. A link to our YouTube channel is included in the description. Well, for those of the people watching, Alan is in the Target Center at Lifetime, which he just informed me is the headquarters of Ultimate Hoops at Lifetime. And so just a quick background for anybody who's watching or listening. Both Alan and I had the opportunity to work together at Lifetime Fitness. Now, is it appropriate to still refer to it as Lifetime Fitness, or is it still like Lifetime?
Well, since you're not a part of the organization, we let it slip. But internally, it's a big no-no to still use fitness attached to it.
When I think about like anytime I talk to other people about it, like I always say Lifetime Fitness because that's what other people know. Now if you're an employee of Lifetime, you actually have to get like a shot collar, and every time you say Lifetime Fitness, it just kind of goes off. We've all been trained. But yeah, so basically, the way that you and I know each other is from just again kind of a relatively brief overlap, where I and a bunch of other people were kind of hired to help Lifetime solve some of its digital challenges, and But even from that brief time, I think, and when we talked before, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because both my team and I recognized you as someone who really kind of got design and had a position in the organization where you were able to help either consciously or unconsciously advocate for being innovative, being human-centered, and stuff like that. So that's kind of the background on like why we're talking today. But before we get into all the questions that I'm going to kind of pummel you with, I'd love for you to just give anybody who's listening just a real quick spin of kind of what you've been up to, like what's been your trajectory and where things going for you right now.
Yeah, I'd love to. So thanks again, Matthew, for having me on your podcast. For people who don't know me, my name's Alan Arlt. And really and you know this Matthew, my mission for the past 15 years has really been to keep people of all ages and all skill levels playing sports for life. Currently, I'm the founder of Ultimate Hoops, a sports company that empowers thousands of members every day to keep playing the game of basketball by delivering professional quality hoops experiences for our Lifetime members. Currently we're in 113 Lifetime locations across the nation. We offer basketball leagues with rich stats, full media content, clinics, camps on hardwood courts at Lifetime that make you feel like a professional. So. Yeah. Everyone in our organization loves the game of basketball. We believe everybody can play, whether it's at Lifetime or in their driveway. And we only ask one thing, is to keep playing and never retire.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I actually really like that because in kind of the intro, it's pretty clear that you yourself are actually still involved to a degree in actually playing and do that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know if you want to call it playing. You're being kind, but no, I'm still actively playing. You know, I'm going to be, well, I just turned 49 years old not too long ago.
Oh,
And
nice.
my wife, Mary, would always talk or tease me a little bit of like, you talk about never retire, you talk about the mission, but you don't really play basketball that much anymore. And I said, you're absolutely right. So I've been an avid runner, but I said, I want to start playing the game again because I've always loved the game of basketball. And it was hard for me in the beginning to play in Ultimate Hoops because I wasn't enjoying it because I'd be looking at the scores table, the operations, the SOP, and it was really hard for me to let go of that. But now, we have people that can do the league 10 times better than I can, so I can actually relax now and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun. And, with basketball, it really is true that there's no other shape than being in basketball shape. So it's a great, great workout, and I love it.
Yeah. So that actually gets into a little bit of the, I love your kind of passion for this, and this was something that, for anyone listening who doesn't know, this was actually something that you personally started, and then Lifetime acquired, and then it became part of Lifetime. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct. So I launched the company here in Minneapolis in 2006, and we were operating really less than 18 months. And then Lifetime called and reached out and wanted to acquire us because they saw what we were doing in the Twin Cities market, how quickly we were growing, and really how differentiated we were from all the other rec leagues based on what we were doing online and in the digital space related to statistics for basketball players. So yeah, it was a hectic 18-month journey, but it was great to join Lifetime and get on that platform.
Yeah. So why did you start Ultimate Hoops? You clearly have passion for this. You have kind of this really altruistic mission for what you want to achieve through Ultimate Hoops. Kind of what's the, I'm channeling my inner Simon Sinek here.
Yeah.
What's kind of like the driving why?
Great question. I've been asked this question a lot, and I've reflected on it a lot. And I think for me, it's always been a desire to play in the NBA and be treated like a professional. That was my dream growing up. I was a sports kid and I wanted to play in the NBA. And I knew very soon, even though I made the high school team, we had a good high school team, that I was never going to be a professional basketball player. And it's been a dream that I've been chasing my whole life. It is a dream that when I lived in New York and played in a number of recreational basketball leagues, I was looking for that experience. I wasn't looking to actually play the game, but is there a league out there that could make me feel like LeBron James, even though I play like Alan Arlt? And I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I said, well, I'm going to try and create this on my own. And I knew that there would be a market for that because I knew that 300 guys get to make it to the NBA, but there's 20 million of people like me that want to make it to the NBA. So I knew if I could at least achieve a little bit of that digital experience with the stats and the box scores, that there'd be a market for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, as you talk about it, I mean, clearly what you were after, what you're not is just another kind of apparatus for rec basketball leagues. What you are is fundamentally that's kind of the mechanics of it. But what you're after is really this experience of having it feel more serious and more legit. And clearly over the last, 12, 14 years now, there is a demand for it. I mean, I just hearing you talk in the beginning, that's explosive growth since you and I were working together. So, I mean, that's really, really impressive. So tell me a little bit about, I'm sorry. Did you have something that you wanted to
I was just going to add on too, the thing that also makes us different is, besides the stats and the box scores, is I've always tried from day one to make an Ultimate Hoops League experience more than 1 hour, 1 day a week experience. We wanted to extend the whole week. So you play your game, but that's just 1 hour of your experience. You go home, you look at your box scores, and then the next day there's power rankings. And then on Thursday, there's algorithms giving you a PPV, and then there's blog posts and videos and photos. So I always want you thinking about Ultimate Hoops 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's been our goal.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is that in that thinking about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's not that you have to or that you're coerced to, it's that you get to, because the quality of that experience is so high that like you're like, yeah, I can't wait to get back to that. It's almost I don't want to say it's addictive, but I mean it's probably pretty addictive.
I think it is for a lot of our players. It is. There's been players who've skipped they're paying their rent money so they could play in the league and do league fees and stuff. So, it's been great, and we have a really strong community of players across the country that we've brought together in our national tournament. So it's just great. I love it.
It's really, really cool. So I think kind of proving my point / premise in having this conversation with you, I've noticed it, and I'm sure the design folks listening to this podcast have noticed the number of times that the word experience has come up in your description of Ultimate Hoops and what you were trying to create and your objective in creating. And I think for people who, like myself, who design experiences, we essentially, and I don't want to butter you up too much, but here we go. We crave working with people like you who just naturally lead out with this objective of how can I create the best experience for, and then fill in the blank. In your case, it's for these athletes who really want an NBA type experience. Yeah. And it's just a testament to me that when someone who has a position of leadership or influence in an organization just naturally comes by that, it's really, really helpful in moving the needle on creating just the experience that you're looking for. So I just wanted to call that out
I mean, I've always had a love of design and digital design, but I've being an entrepreneur and starting this company on my own, I had to do everything. From designing the website. I don't really know how to code. I can do some CSS stuff, little things like that. And it was such a blessing to get acquired by Lifetime because suddenly I was in a room with people like you who really knew what they were doing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is great. I actually have people that want to make Ultimate Hoops even better. And you know what? They know what they're doing. So it was great to have those conversations with you and the team. And you guys just took what I've been trying to piece together in my mind. You just elevated that experience for everybody at Lifetime. So it was great.
Well, you definitely made it easy for us.
Well,
you totally
I tried to.
Kids. Easier. So, I'd love to ask you some more kind of big philosophical questions about leadership, and where I've been starting with the folks that I'm kind of interviewing in this series is in your mind, what does it mean to be a leader or to lead? Like what is that?
Yeah, no, it's a question that I reflect upon a lot because I'm always trying to be a better leader. You should always try to evolve. Like I said, I still feel like there's a lot of areas that I could be better as a leader. I think to keep it really relevant in these times now, I think leadership is truly being prepared for any type of condition that you're thrown after. Which is thrown at you. It's right now I'm just really focused on the livelihood of our employees. With COVID and the pandemic going on, you just can't expect your team and your employees to be operating at 100% right now. It's just not realistic. And as you know, Matthew, the health and fitness industry sector has been hit harder than any sector out there right now. So we went from having our largest participation in the first quarter of adult leagues across the country going 140 miles an hour to zero in a month. So I think it's really having that as a leader, being prepared for all conditions, understanding that business, you're going to go through different seasons. And for many years, it's been sunny skies and winds at our back. And people say, a storm is going to come one day and you just kind of, don't think about it, but it's here now. And it's really forced us to look at the big picture, knowing that sports will come back. People are missing sports like crazy right now, and just really staying positive for your team.
Yeah.
and letting them know that and be there to support them on a human level. That's really what my leadership muscle and gears at today, right now.
That is, there's really a lot to unpack there. I'm gonna want to dig into to some stuff there, but I want to bring up something that is minorly trivial, but somewhat relevant. When you started talking about the health and fitness industry and sports kind of taking a really, really serious hit, I mean that really hits close to home because my daughter, my 19-year-old daughter, actually works at a fitness club here in Florida.
Yeah,
and I mean, and I've seen that firsthand. I mean, it's been really, really hard.
Yep.
And I mean, and they've been creative, but I love, I would like to unpack this whole notion of, and that whole, the answer of leadership being able to respond to kind of the unexpected effectively. I'd like to unpack that a little bit. And I'd like to do that. I want to ask a little bit of what might be considered a leading question. So how's that for a setup?
I love it. I love leading questions.
So when someone who, let's say someone's listening to this and they're a leader and they're going through, whether it's related to COVID or some other kind of, they've recently experienced some really unexpected quote unquote storm. How do you do that? How do you get into a position where you feel like you are prepared to deal with the unexpected? Because by its nature, it's unexpected. So how does one do that?
Yeah, I think what I've really done is look really, I haven't made a list, but like I said before, you have to look big picture. So when this hit, I had to look at first of what are really the most important things to me in my life. And that's my family. That's my wife. That's my kids. That's my extended family.
Right.
And knowing that they're safe, thankfully, knowing that we're getting up every day and still having dinner and seeing each other and sharing a laugh and some of my close friends, that for me sets the foundation to go into the office and deal with some of the work things. Because I know no matter what, that's the most important thing in my life. And I try to take that same mindset and apply that to my Ultimate Hoops employees. Someone comes in my office and they're really struggling or they're stressed because all the leagues in New York have shut down and they're worried about revenue and all that. I sit them down and I say, stop. Like this is, I love the passion, but this is a basketball league. This is a health and fitness company. How are you doing? How's your family doing? And we start talking about that, and you can just see their body just calm down and they get perspective like that. And it helps in those situations. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's kind of like
that's awesome.
The heart of this thing inside me that I just reflect on that every day. And it just gets my mindset right to make steps in bringing this Ultimate Hoops thing back to earth again.
Yeah, I really like that a lot because kind of some of the principles I'm hearing at play is when something hits you as hard as COVID has, or when whatever unexpected storm comes your way, it sounds like something you do in that situation is, or a tool that you have is, let's step back and remember, okay, what is fundamentally the most important thing in this situation, and how are we taking care of that? So in this case with COVID, I mean, it's peeled us all the way back to our own personal health, the health of our families, and then kind of the circle of importance radiates out.
Yes. Yeah. And, we have a lot of young employees at Ultimate Hoops too. And which is great to be around that energy all the time. But a lot of them have not been through a crisis like this before. So, I was living in New York during 9/11. I lost a friend on 9/11. I lost my parents back to back within a year of each other prior to 9/11. So I have a lot of experience going through that and trying to bounce back from that and having perspective. So, COVID for me is, it's a challenge, but I won't say I'm lucky in a sense, but I have a lot of reservoirs of gratefulness that I pull from living through those experiences.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really eloquent way of putting it. Um, the way that I put it is life has slapped me around enough to help me
Yes,
realize what's truly important.
exactly. Yes.
It's like
I love
the
that.
right the things worth getting myself wound up about are less than, or the number of things worth getting myself wound up about are less than the fingers I have on one hand.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's so tempting for us to get like wrapped around the axle of things that really ultimately in the scheme of things are, yes, they're important because we have the job to do, but like to let ourselves get to an unhealthy level of stress and anxiety so that we ultimately are unproductive or at worst get sick. It's just, there's just not many things in this life worth doing that over. And I don't know, I think that's really, really wise.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so what else? So this definitely, there's this principle of, being a good leader means being able to respond to the unexpected. And we've talked about some principles that help you do that. What else would you consider kind of critical to good leadership, either from lessons you've learned or mistakes you've made,
Yeah.
or leaders that you have worked with, people that you've been kind of uh, subordinate to? I don't like that word, but
Yeah.
leaders that you've had. What would you say are some other kind of fundamental principles of being a good leader in general?
Yeah. No, great question. I think, for me, I've been doing this long enough. I've been in the corporate world and the entrepreneurial world enough to know that for me, it sounds cliche, but it really does come down to people.
Mhm.
I found that processes and tools can always be automated and improved, and you can create a new financial report using this. All that stuff is great and it's always evolving. But
Yeah.
for me, it's people and having people understand the values of what your organization is
Mm.
and keeping that consistent and true, because as your business continues to grow, your core values of your organization can become really diluted the more that you get. So I really spend a lot of time not necessarily on operations anymore, but really making sure that we're instilling the core values of our organization, which is making every one of our members feel like a professional. Treating them like an NBA player, or if they're a 12-year-old a boy or girl in one of our classes and they dribble it off their foot every single time when they go to their right, you're still in there cheering them and cheering them on, because success is not getting that kid to the NBA. Success is having them playing basketball when they're 75 or 80
Right.
years old. So the success of your company, I really believe, is tied into how you can really keep your employees motivated on authentic core values in the organization. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned,
Yeah.
Matt, in the last 25 years.
No, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. How did you, if you wouldn't mind kind of describing that a little bit more? So my gut tells me that in order to generate kind of passionate belief in core values, your core values have to kind of intrinsically inspire that or represent passionate belief that people identify with. How do you go about doing that? How do you make sure that either, and I guess it's kind of two sides of the coin. You've got the people in your company who need to believe in and kind of represent the values. But then the
Yep.
values themselves have to be of a caliber that doesn't feel like a lot of work. So
Right.
how do you get there?
Yeah, you made a great point. Your core values can't just be tied to business results,
Right.
because then it's not authentic, and it just feels like it's another tactic for business results,
Right.
which is never good. So for us, one of the things we talk about is having a limitless mindset in our organization, and that's always to think bigger, think broader, not just about Ultimate Hoops and Lifetime, but yourself.
Right.
What do you want to do long term? Do you want to be with UH for a while, or do you want to do something else? If you want to do something else long term, how can we make this valuable for you at Ultimate Hoops? I try to carve out with each employee at least 10 to 15% of their own 40 hours a week into a passion project that they want to do. And hopefully it's tied to UH, but it may not be, because again, these are really young kids coming out of college, and they have a lot of different ideas and ambitions. And I want them to do that because it does two things. One is it keeps them happy. It keeps them thinking, and they may be working on a 10 or 15% of a passion project. And one little morsel of that, they may come into my office and say, you know what? I was working on something completely unrelated to Ultimate Hoops, and I thought of something that might actually work for Ultimate Hoops or Lifetime as well. So for me, that's the big part of the core values, is keeping it authentic, but also making it relatable and valuable to the employees that are actually driving it. Yeah, no,
you keep saying stuff that I just want to pause and like keep unpacking. And so, if that feels tedious, I apologize, but you just keep saying
that's fine.
You keep saying really interesting stuff. So, one of the things that you said was this idea of really understanding what kind of the long-term vision of your employees is, and I love that you spent some time talking about how you acknowledge you are not likely going to retire here at Ultimate Hoops, right? And I feel like that in many ways in the professional world is kind of a legacy mindset of, there really isn't any such, and this is going to sound terrible, but I don't view it as a bad thing. There really isn't such a thing as, or as much of a thing as like long-term loyalty to a company or what have you. And I'm actually a big fan. And I think the reason why I love that you brought this up is I'm a big fan of having that level of transparency and honesty with those that I work with as well. Just kind of acknowledging that up front and saying, look, we are happy if you want to stay here for the rest of your life. We're also really happy to be your next stop on your way to whatever is ultimate, for you. And so how do you, when you kind of engage in that kind of philosophy and those types of conversations, do you ever feel any resistance from your leadership peers or those that you report to for kind of embracing that philosophy? Or do you find that there's not a lot of friction there, and others that you work with and are on board with that as well?
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of friction. When we first rolled out our core values here about 4 or 5 years ago, Lifetime didn't even talk about core values or have anything really. I mean, you were here. We didn't really talk about it at that time. But in the last 2 or 3 years, they've really leaned into having core values in a mission statement. So, they were advocates of what we were trying to do in our own little business within Lifetime already. So I haven't had any resistance. It's been a lot of collaboration with other executive leaders at Lifetime. And I think everybody's realizing how important that is today.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that when you can kind of unleash people's potential in that way and help them feel comfortable with, hey, everybody kind of knows that either I'm going to be here in 10 years or I'm not. And whatever the outcome, everybody's cool with that. Just the creativity and I like how you worded it too earlier when you were talking about how you get back to what's most important. You just see the tension leave and you can then focus on actually solving the problem or getting to what's really important.
Yeah. And I think a key for that is you have to be, core values for us does not start during the onboarding process or a year after you join the organization. It actually starts in the interviewing process. We want candidates to know the type of company Lifetime is, but also the Ultimate Hoops company within Lifetime and what we're about, how we operate. So they know, is this a good fit for you as well? Because we, having me at the helm still, I love to, I change my mind all the time. I like to pivot. I like to do things at 100 miles an hour and I run into a wall a lot. And then you guys pick me back up again. So they have to know that that's the expectation of you are
Yeah.
still, even though we've grown and grown and grown, we still very much operate like a startup company here.
Yeah.
And I tell people I'd rather have someone in my company for 12 months that just loves it and goes hard and leaves than someone who's here for 5 or 6 years and are just kind of apathetic about our mission.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at a company once where we were trying to shift. We were trying to kind of catalyze a shift in the culture more toward that kind of mentality. And one of the ideas that we came up with in our brainstorming session about how to kind of make that real was the concept of company alumni. When you have someone amazing, or when you have someone who's with you for a while, but then they go somewhere else, celebrate that. We're so happy. Right. Hey, look at our alumni page and stuff like that. We ended up not doing it, but I love the principle that kind of roots itself in, which is just celebrating people. Right. And I think you said that, as one of the core things about being a good leader, it's really all about the people.
Yeah. I mean, if someone comes and works for UH and they don't leave at least learning 2 or 3 new things, important things that they carry with them through their next job or the next 2 jobs, then we've really failed. Right. So that's a big thing that we're focused on.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, and we've talked about this both directly and indirectly, but I want to ask you a specific question about as you kind of spearhead this company within Lifetime, and even before Lifetime acquired it, and and you think about the role of intentionally designing experiences, or you think about that idea of intentionally designing experiences. Yep. What's an example of something that comes to your mind as a particularly victorious moment where you felt like you and the people that you were working with were able to kind of model and create something that was just a fantastic improvement, or like a new add-on to the experience?
Yeah, I guess I'll go all the way back to the beginning. And what the initial intent was for our website. And just to give some context, so this is back in 2006. So this is pre-Facebook. I think Twitter may have just launched like a couple months after reading. Right. So there wasn't any real social media strategy because there wasn't one.
It's before the iPhone.
It was, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, when we sat around, so I worked with a web person and a designer. It was just the 3 of us, and we just started talking about the website. And the thing that we knew was going to be most important is how do we best present the data to our members, because we knew that was going to be the game statistics, the performance data was going to be what our strongest differentiation point was going to be from the different recreational leagues out there, and to deliver on our brand promise of treating everybody like a professional. So we knew the table stakes was going to be, well, we have to show box scores like an NBA website, which back at that time was ESPN and NBA.com, but there wasn't any other basketball brands out there. There wasn't Bleacher Report or any things that you see today as well. So we sat back, and the designer said to me at that time, he said, we need to let the data breathe. Like, it has to be really easy for someone to read their box scores, see where they are, look at their game performance, look at their player profile. And I knew that, that's great. But I wanted to really have an art and science look to the website as well. Like, I wanted the science to be there with the data and the stats, but there had to be an emotional, personal hook to the website as well. So then we talked about photos and videos, which video at that time was very, very difficult to do. So we knew that we didn't have the capability to do that at that time. But I really wanted to personalize the experience, because I knew adding an art element was going to add to the emotion and the stickiness of the product as well. So, that was really the mindset that we applied to the website. We wanted to have the whole database and admin backend done by opening night. It was not done for the next 4 months. It wasn't really a back-end website. It was us creating things in Photoshop that looked like a box score that we would upload to the website. I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Yes.
At that point, we had to make it work. But it was funny, even under that crappy website, that crappy, phony website appearance that we put out there in the first few games, the players absolutely loved it. Like they hadn't seen anything like it. Again, remember, this is 2006. And they were sharing it everywhere. With their friends. They're sending out links to the website because you couldn't really do screenshots or anything like that. And that really elevated our growth because people didn't think the stats were real. They're like, what do you mean you have stats for your recreational basketball league? So that was the big moment. And then every year we've just tried to add different things that make sense for our members, what our players are looking for, but also leveraging some of the technology that's out there and keeping us relevant with some of the big brands.
Yeah. That is such a like an exciting kind of startup, scrappy, very much. I don't know. It's very validating because like if you think about how the practice of design and even product development has matured, and there's all these different methodologies, and there's you've got sprints and agile and and all of that stuff. It's fun to see so many of those principles at play. Like as you were describing, kind of photoshopping the things and getting them out there and demoing. It's like, there's our minimum viable product right there, friends.
Yes, exactly.
Is it working? Great.
Yeah.
Let's keep leaning into it.
I'm envious. Like I look at a lot of the recreational basketball leagues starting today, and I've talked to a few people starting up basketball companies, and it's just, I don't want to sound like the old guy, but I am the old guy. But I'm like, it's so much easier now to start that type of business because all the online platforms are out there for you. Yeah. You have social networks. You have such great geolocation marketing that you can do on Google. Like it just is. We just didn't have that back then. Our innovation was printing out colored flyers and sticking them under windshield wipers at a rival recreational league. Like that was our geo targeting that we were doing. So it's so much. It's fun and exciting to see all the tools that these rec entrepreneurs have at their disposal.
And that's got to feel good. I'm like, you've got to feel good about kind of the stamp that you and Ultimate Hoops have been able to make in the progress of all that. I mean, I can't.
Yeah. I think what's really helped us, Matthew, is we've really invested a lot in the brand of Ultimate Hoops. Yeah. And that sounds cliched as well, but you need a strong brand to survive times like this. People have to really feel a connection to your company and miss your product when it's not there. Yeah. And we're feeling that right now. Like we're getting emails and DMs every single day about getting the Ultimate Hoops League back up in the training. So really investing in your brand will help you survive when storms like this arise.
What I think is fascinating is that when, and you even kind of caveated it saying, oh, this is going to sound cliche, that we just kind of generally in the professional world often look at that type of advice, like invest in your brand and make sure you have a really solid brand. I have experienced a lot of people kind of be dismissive of that advice and kind of think, oh yeah, that's what everybody says, and that's silver bullet, this, that, and the other. But like when you say invest in your brand, what's involved in that? Like what's I mean, it's way more than just let's update our logo, which more often than not is what people who don't understand the idea of a brand think it is. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it's definitely more than the visual presentation of what your company's about and your logo. It's really truly about the relationship that you've built with your consumers that come in, that trust, that equity that you've built for us 12 years of being at Lifetime. That equity of like, I know when I show up for my game, there's going to be 2 refs and the stats are going to be there, and someone actually cares about my basketball experience. And, that it's like an investment that you make, and it's the little micro investments of all the little things, like paying attention to every little detail that goes into the experience builds your brand, because it's an investment that you make, and you don't know when that investment's going to pay off until something like this happens, and then you see the people missing your product, or they may try something else and be like, God, that league was crap. I can't wait for the Ultimate Hoops League to come back. So it's getting all the operational details really tight, but it's really building that relationship with your players and that trust with your members that will pay dividends in the end.
Yeah, you and I didn't talk beforehand, but like relationship, like when I think about investing in brand, that's exactly what I think of. Really, when you say we need to invest in our brand, we're talking about the relationship that we're developing with our customers, and even with our employees. So, like, if you really think about a brand holistically, it's about those relationships. And the good news and the bad news is we know that to create meaningful relationships that continue to grow and thrive takes a lot of work, takes a lot of care and feeding. It takes a lot of, and you have to look beyond the things that are going to bring you immediate rewards, because those very things might ultimately be damaging to the relationship. So,
I mean, that's what's the famous quote. A brand is not what you say it is what people say your brand's about. I'm hacking the quote there, but it's really what your consumers tell you what type of brand or what your brand is about. You can have the craziest logo or the most well-designed logo. It doesn't mean anything if there's not actually something behind that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we have about 4 minutes left. And I would love to. So typically, what I do at this point, you and I have gone through a lot. You've been very kind and patient in letting me go back and rehash and dissect things that you say. Is there anything that is there anything that you? Well, actually, let me ask this. Yeah. If someone were to come to you and say, "Hey, I currently find myself in a leadership position." And I have to make decisions that have to do with design or the experiences that we're trying to create, or the relationships that we're trying to form and forge. What advice can you give me? What would you say to that?
Boy, well, again, you're talking to a ham and egg basketball operator here, not a typical design person you probably have on your show, Matthew. So
That's exactly why I have you on the show.
I would actually start probably if I was talking to someone, really get specific on your point of differentiation. What's your why about your company? Before you do any mock-ups or wireframes, like answer that question. Like, what do you want people, what's the first thing you want people to think about when they come to your website or engage with you on a digital platform? What's that message that you want to send? And it doesn't matter about what the format is, if it's videos or photos or text or copy. You have to get really, really clear about that, because whether you're doing it yourself or if you're going to hire a talented professional like yourself, they're going to need to know that. So you really have to get clear on what your message is and what your company stands for and what you're trying to communicate out. And then let the experts like yourself take that 2 or 3, 4 sentence brief or whatever and put the magic behind that. But that's more important than saying, I want this column red, this column green, I want to put a basketball here. Like that's not your job, because trust me, I've tried that and it looks terrible. Your job is to have a clear point of view to the consumer, and then let the professionals like yourself take it and bring that to life. So that's my best answer.
That's awesome. And by the way, anybody who's listening or watching, this is not scripted whatsoever. I hope everybody sees why I wanted to have Alan on the show at this point. And if you ever get the chance to work with him, count yourself lucky.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So is there anything that you kind of came to this call wanting to say or communicate that you haven't gotten the chance to thus far?
No, I mean, other than a big thank you, and
Yeah.
again for having me on. I love that you're doing this podcast, Matthew. You have so much to say and have value, and I'm really excited to get get your podcast out there and start listening to these episodes. And I'm excited to start sharing it. So,
Cool.
I don't think so. I think. Like I said, I love great design. I'm not a designer, even though I pretended to be for many, many years. And I always love getting inspired from people like you and others in this field. And makes me feel a little bit envious that you guys can do the work that you do. It's kind of like, watching a great basketball player. It's like, God, I wish I could shoot with my left hand, like this person.
Yeah.
And I don't think people appreciate, and I think you've probably experienced this at Lifetime, people don't appreciate how hard design is. It's really, really difficult. And not just from a creative standpoint of trying to think of something, but getting all the different inputs from other people, trying to get their vision in there, and you trying to make that come to life. Like, seriously, it's really, really tough. And it just makes me appreciate what you and people in your industry can accomplish.
It actually reminds me, one of my favorite things I ever heard anybody say was, look, I don't want you to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to make it really easy to use.
Yes. Again.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'm hearing two things that don't necessarily go together.
Right. How many briefs have probably been pushed that way? I think it's probably a very popular template.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your time.
You bet, Matthew. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. See you, man.
Okay. See you, buddy.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Go XDGO. A special thanks to my guest, Alan Arlt, for joining me today. Our next podcast will continue our focus on design leadership and will feature Sarah Timmings, Vice President of Strategy and Creative at C-Space. Until then, please like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. To learn more about XDGO and how we can help you, your team, or your organization build your experience design capabilities, please visit us at www.xdgo.io.